Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Meira Blaustein. I am the co-founder and executive director of the Woodstock Film Festival. So welcome to our series of virtual films and conversations, something that we have began back in mid-March when we had to close our office and figure out what to do instead. So we've had lots and lots of really great filmmakers and producers and actors and members of the industry discuss all sort of different things. And we will continue to have more conversations coming up next week and the following. So please check us up online, woodstockfilmfestival.org, and join us when you can. We'd love to have you. And right now we have Fisher Stevens, who is an actor and a producer and a director, a man of many, many talents. So I'd like to welcome to the talk, Fisher Stevens. Hello, hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. You're joining us from the basement of your house.
Yeah, it's not my house. It's a very nice friend of mine's guest house in Croton on the Hudson. So I'm grateful to be here, and I hope everybody's hanging in and safe and being safe, and
Yeah.
their minds haven't departed their bodies yet.
It's been already more than 2 months. It's been playing tricks on all of us, I'm sure. So Fisher, I have known you for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I have known you as an actor. I've known you as a producer. I've known you as an activist for environmental and political films. I have not known you as somebody who executive produced the hottest show on television, Tiger King, which I have recently finished watching, which I have to say is a feat on my part. So before I open it up to questions from the attendees, and please feel free, you guys, to send in questions to Steve Fisher, because he really is one of the most prolific people I know in the film industry. You know, from producing the Academy Award winning film The Cove to directing various films. He's got a couple of, he just finished directing a film. He has a film that's just now out of the can. I believe you finished directing, finished post, which we'll talk about later. So a lot of different things. But what I want to hear from you first is, how come you executive produced the hottest show on television, on Netflix, which seems to be not the typical thing that you may always do. So if you can talk a little bit about the genesis of Tiger King, and how did you and that subject and that show get connected?
Well, Tiger King kind of morphed into what you guys all saw on Netflix. Ironically, after I did The Cove, maybe 2 years later, I've for years been friends with Eric Good, who I knew him as a kid when I was trying to get into Area, the nightclub that he started, and stayed friends with him. You know, he opened the Bowery Bar. He's all, you know, we used to play basketball, but his real passion has been turtles and tortoises and conservation. And he asked me to be on the advisory board of the Turtle Conservancy. And at the same time showed me some footage that he had of him buying or finding these illegal turtles in these crazy wildlife markets where they were selling civet cats and bats and everything that now is kind of also identified with the coronavirus. So we had all this footage, and he's like, I think we should make a documentary on it. And I said, well, maybe, you know, let's look at it. And we looked at a lot of it, and I said, maybe there's a TV series here. And he had known Rebecca Chaiklin through kind of the hospitality industry. Rebecca was a friend of his, and a friend of mine introduced me to the mother of my children, and a great friend. And Rebecca and I had directed a movie on Occupy Wall Street. And I said, why don't Rebecca and you come together and see? She could kind of oversee it. I'm busy, I'll exec produce it. And we originally really wanted to make a movie about the wildlife trade. And then that kind of morphed into a movie about people who own exotic animals.
Mm.
And then, I mean, I'm telling you, we worked on this thing on and off for 6 or 7 years. Then Rebecca and Eric found Joe Exotic, and that story started to unfold with Joe trying to maybe kill Carol, and all that stuff was unfolding while they were filming. Meanwhile, at the same time, I was actually making a conservation film on tigers called Tigerland,
Right.
Discovery, which is the polar opposite, which is about this amazing guy in Russia who's trying to save Siberian tigers, and this family in India that has saved tigers in India and created a tiger reserve and in the wild, not in captivity. So I was kind of being bipolar myself, because on the one hand, I'm working on this conservation film, and on the other hand, Rebecca and Eric have really stumbled upon gold, which wasn't the original intention at all. And it was a crime thriller and all that. And so, yeah, I mean, I have to say, I bet you very few people on this Zoom or in Woodstock Film Festival have seen Tigerland, which was at Sundance in competition and on Discovery. But I bet most of you have either heard of or seen Tiger King, which is kind of interesting comment on our society and also about movie making. Now, Tigerland was in Russian and in Hindi and in English. And, you know, there were great characters, but nothing like Joe Exotic. When they stumbled upon Joe Exotic, and Joe Exotic just really started vibing with Rebecca and Eric, just opening up to them. I mean, it was really Rebecca and Eric. And as a matter of fact, they told me not that they didn't even want to let them know that I was that involved because of the Cove and my animal activism. And there probably might have been some suspicion and all of that. But once that, you know, storyline unfolded, we knew it was amazing. And then we, you know, Rebecca and Eric just were constantly they were deep into that storyline. My children might bundle in here.
Yeah, it's like can
you give me 5 minutes? Upstairs. Sorry, these are my my. Okay, so anyway, go to Mama, will you? Thanks. Sorry, guys.
Mom is not here.
She's upstairs. Mom's upstairs. Okay, so yeah, go find Christina. So anyway, sorry guys, this is the new world.
exactly.
So then I'd done a lot of movies with Netflix, and I was working with Chris Smith on a couple of projects. And then Chris Smith, who's a great filmmaker, made the Fire Festival documentary for Netflix.
Right, right.
Yeah, we brought it to Netflix, and then it really just, we knew we had something amazing, but I think truthfully the virus made it much bigger than it ever would have been.
Okay.
And there is, you know, they've reopened the investigation into Carol, whether or not she's was involved in the murder of Don, her husband. And I think actually it's had quite an impact on animal activism in another way, because many states now are making sure that none of their residents are allowed to own tigers or lions or big cats in captivity. So, you know, a lot of my movies were about making movies to kind of push the needle or change the way that laws are. And ironically, Tiger King, I mean, there's been a lot of people going, oh, well, we glorified Joe and all that. But the truth is, I think that the series will have a really good impact on animal rights and animal.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think so too. And I mean, I was talking to my son about it also, who said the same thing. So I think it's possible. What before we depart from that, I mean, I have also a question about this particular show, but and then we're going to move on to other parts of your career. But before we depart from that, do you see, I mean, I know that the show has turned out to be very different than what you originally thought it would be. Do you see that it's making a difference? I mean, do you see tangible difference that it's making, a positive difference that it's making? I mean, I feel that it does, but I wonder from your perspective.
Like I do think states are re-examining their laws as to whether or not people can own big cats. For sure. In that sense, it's been good. I also think it's going to shut down a lot of these zoos, which I think is good. I mean, there's no reason for these people to exploit these animals. I mean, actually, Mario Tabro, the Scarface character, he actually treats his animals quite well. And really, I don't want to judge anybody, but I think of all the characters, he really loves those animals. And, you know, it's tricky. It's tricky. The one thing I do want to say about the show, that the reason I think it worked, and I try to do this in every documentary I make, although I had nothing to do with this aspect of Tiger King. I really believe that Eric and Rebecca, the directors, they didn't judge these people. They just kind of put the camera on them and let them be who they were. And Rebecca and Eric really were fascinated by them. And I think that kind of fascination, and I have to say, you know, they liked each other. And I think that really helped. And they really opened up incredibly well, which is like what every documentarian tries to do, is to get people to see the essence of who these people were. And you really got the true essence of all these characters. So I think that was part of the success of the show.
Right. Do you feel that, I mean, I know that right now you're working on completely different projects, which we're going to talk about shortly. Do you feel that your work on this particular show, Tiger King, which was extremely successful, is going to influence your decision of selecting projects going forward? Has it already? Do you think that it will?
Well, for me, the thing about Tiger King that was new was that it was a series, and that it was 7 episodes. So it taught me a lot, because I'd never done a doc series. I've done a lot of docs. I've acted in a lot of series, but never produced. So in that sense, yes, it affects the way that now I love the format. For those editors that I've worked with before, I love the team. I love putting together a team and that kind of collaboration. I thought that was great. In terms of like making something commercial, I learned really early on that when I try to make something commercial, it never works. So I'm just going to have to keep doing what I like and not try to make something that will ever be as, you know, that was just a moment in time. So yeah, in that sense. But in terms of doc series or fictional series, I really love the form of making television series.
Right. Yes, also in terms of the audience that you can get. I mean, Tiger King, I think, was a phenomenon, and yeah. I'm sure that what you said about the fact that we are sheltered in home, locked in home due to a pandemic, also the viewing has probably increased because of that.
The viewing for Netflix was crazy. I mean, they'd never had anything like it. But a lot of it was because we were locked down. What else are we going to do? We're not going to the club. We're not going, the Woodstock Film Festival at night. So.
Darn. Yeah. Well, we do have Woodstock Film Festival talks with people like you. Come on.
Right. Yeah. Good.
I have, I'm going to go to some questions now, if that's okay. So first of all, I'm still going to stay with Tiger King, but I promise you I'm going to depart from that shortly. So Kim Wozencraft is asking, any plans for a documentary about Carol Baskin's guilt or innocence? I think I know the answer, but
we're definitely working on something. But I don't think we're alone. I think the thing that's so crazy about Tiger King is you probably read about like Nick Cage is going to do a version, Kate McKinnon, there's going to be all these fictional versions. It's just become public domain. So now everybody is filming trying to do a movie on Tiger King. But we are looking into that. Yes, Kim, we are, for sure.
Okay. Keep us informed. Anonymous attendees asking, why did you become involved with Tiger King if you're an animal rights activist? Did you think you would change things with the show? And I mean,
yeah,
go ahead.
I probably answered that I've answered that a little bit, but I've never viewed myself as such an animal rights activist as I am an environmental activist. And I feel that they're connected. The two are connected. I mean, when I did The Cove, I knew nothing really about animal rights, but I knew a lot about global climate. Well, we called it global warming back then, and climate change and carbon, too much carbon in the air. So in my animal rights world, it was all about saving habitats by saving the environment for the species. So animal rights, now obviously I've been getting interesting emails from certain animal rights groups and people, and when I did The Cove, obviously I learned quite a bit about it. But like I said, we really did set out to make a movie about these exotic pet owners, and even before that about the wet markets. So it just kind of morphed. And as filmmakers, once you see a character like Joe Exotic, you're just like, oh, you knew it was gold. So we didn't know where it was going to go, where it was going to take us. And we just followed a story.
Terrence McCory is asking, this is about The Cove now. Are you saddened regarding the continued plight of marine mammals, or heartened that this situation has improved?
Well, it's both. Okay, so the situation has improved dramatically because I did another film called Mission Blue about a diver, an incredible marine biologist named Dr. Sylvia Earle, who was trying to create these hope spots, which means they're giant tracts of ocean where you can't drill for oil, drill for minerals. You can't do any fishing with commercial fishing, and you can't dump or do any dumping. When we started Mission Blue, 0.08% of the ocean was protected. That was in 2015. Now 3.8 to 4.4% of the ocean are now protected. So in that sense, that's a big, big, big gain. The problem is that because of up until COVID-19, before COVID-19, the planet was heating up and the oceans were getting warmer. They still are. And I'm not going to pretend that COVID-19 is going to save that. But the warming of the ocean, because we're just pumping so much carbon into the air, is getting worse and worse and worse. And that is killing habitat. And that is becoming devastating to our marine mammals. So that's bad. Shipping has become a huge problem. We noticed since COVID-19 that their shipping lanes have become a little less. So there have been less deaths of marine mammals. But I love that it's getting in the ether and people are becoming more aware of this. So the more people are aware, the more we can maybe stop it. And there's lots of movies being made about it now, which is great. And less dolphins are being slaughtered at the Cove in Japan, for sure.
That's very, very good. I have a question here from Sabine Hoffman, who is a big fan of you as an actor and as a producer and
A big
director.
fan of hers as an editor, yes.
Yes. She's wondering how you balance causes. What do you feel is most important to engage with at the moment, and where do you find strength and inspiration?
Well, I mean, right now there's one cause, and that's getting rid of Donald Trump for me, because we're facing like a totalitarian dictatorship, and he's surrounding himself with these terrible people that don't believe in the Constitution, in my opinion. So I'm putting a lot of effort, energy, and money into getting rid of him. So I'm terrified that if he wins again, it's over. I mean, you know, I don't know. Woodstock Film Festival, I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but so I'm working on a lot of PSAs. I'm raising a lot of money. I'm really worried about the elections and worried about, you know, I mean, just the way he's handling the virus in this country it's ridiculous. So right now, Sabine, my cause is to get rid of Trump at all costs. And I have really interesting conversations with some very wealthy and influential people, strategizing, making little PSAs and like that. So, yeah, I mean, my cause before that was always the environment, pretty much more so than animal rights. But you know, if we get rid of Trump, that would be the best thing for the environment. That's the way I view it.
When you worked with Alex Gibney on Dirty Money, that particular part, the particular part that you worked on, was that Trump related? I don't recall.
Yeah, it was about Donald Trump. It was called The Confidence Man. It was all about his, I mean, it's crazy. And why, I don't understand why Netflix doesn't push it a little bit now, because what it was it would showed all of the history of his business, Trump Incorporated. And I interviewed people that worked with him, and whether it was worked with him at Atlantic City, worked with him on The Apprentice, worked with him in you know, even in his university, he fucked everybody over. Every business went bankrupt, and the only one who ever won was him. And that was kind of the thesis of the film. And yeah, so that was what it was about. Wait, did I lose you guys? Are you there?
No, you're with us. We have you.
I've lost you.
You lost me?
Yeah.
I'm right here and I can see you.
Okay, good. As long as you can see me. I'll just look at this. Okay.
Go ahead.
So yeah, it was a great experience to make it. I just can't believe that he's still in office, and that, oh, there you are. And that we yeah, so I'd love everybody on this chat to check it out. It's called The Confidence Man, episode 6 of Dirty Money, the first season. And then episode 1 of this season is about Jared Kushner, his son-in-law. And it's the directors I spoke to about it. It's kind of a sequel to what I made. It's, you know, the son-in-law.
I think you shot a little bit of it, Dirty Money right there in Woodstock, as a matter of fact.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, because one of the women that he messed up in the lawsuit lived up here. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of comments from Nancy Cohen, and one of them is referring to your film Mission Blue, which she just says is fantastic. I wonder if you can tell us a little bit more about that particular film, the process of the making of it, and what you wanted to achieve with it, and what you think it did achieve.
That was like a life-changing experience. I was originally producing the film. We started filming in the Galapagos, and I met this guy who was an environmental filmmaker, and I said, okay, we'll film together in the Galapagos. And, you know, it was one of those things where Sylvia is a tough subject. She didn't want to talk anything about her personal life, just wanted to preach about how we're ruining the oceans and about the fish, which she's great at. But this guy that was going to direct, he just couldn't kind of get into her life and her open story. So we kind of parted ways, and I just said, I love this woman. I feel like this is an important movie about, like I said, hope spots, and about making people understand that if we don't fix the ocean, we're all fucked, because we breathe life. The ocean is our life. So I just went on this mission myself to open up Sylvia Earle and get her to talk personally about her life. And I got to go scuba diving with her, and we got to go to places that she would revisit, and was just blown away at how fucked they became, years later, like bleached out corals. And I wanted to inspire women too. I think it was for me, an eye opener, being a man who's kind of I don't know. I'm sort of my girlfriend always calls me like this 50s kind of male, but it really opened my eyes to how tough it was for women in the 70s and 80s. And she was such a pioneer and she was so inspiring. And I did get her to open up, and she was not happy. It was like one of those movies that when you screen it for the subject, they don't speak to you for a while and they write you these horrible letters about how I have to cut this, I have to cut that. And I was upset that I upset her, but I knew that if we didn't have her personal story, the movie wouldn't be as effective. And in the end, I think it raised a lot of money for her organization and it did really well. And it was Netflix's third documentary that they ever bought. So starting my relationship with Netflix. They saw it in Berlin at the film festival and bought it. And it really helped Sylvia, and she's raised a lot of money. And I think it's a beautiful place. She's still a little mad that I get into her marriages and her children and all that, but I love her and I'll always love her. And I think she's an amazing human being.
Mm. It's incredible. It's an incredible film. So I have a couple of questions from Leslie Middlebrook. And it's really about how she can see some of your work. She is asking where she can see The Cove, Netflix or otherwise, other avenues. And she's also asking about the Dirty Money segment. Is it called Confidence Man or Dirty Money?
Yeah, it's the series is Dirty Money, series 1. There are 2 seasons, first season, and it's the 6th episode, and it's called The Confidence Man.
Right.
On Netflix. I don't know where you see The Cove. I think you could see it on iTunes. I'll find out and write you, Mira.
Okay, Leslie, you can also just look online. You can just Google how to watch The Cove. Usually,
it's probably on YouTube at this point, you know.
Yeah, it's very possible that YouTube or iTunes. So just Google that. And she's also asking about your PSAs. Because you're doing PSAs, how can people access that if they can?
Well, yeah. I directed the last one I just did was with John Leguizamo. It was for the census. And the one I'm in the middle of doing a Green New Deal PSA with Mark Ruffalo and AOC and Don Cheadle. So the census, I don't know. I give them to these NGOs and then they blast them out. But I will, that's a good question. I'm going to give Woodstock Film Festival my PSAs and then Mira, you can distribute them or show them.
Please.
We can put them on your website. How about that?
I will. You heard it. You heard it here first. I'm going to hold you to it.
Okay, cool.
Awesome. So I have a number of questions. I'm going to ask you, Susanna Darcy, and I apologize. I have, by the way, my notification turned off. I don't know why it keeps on beeping. It's not supposed to. So Susanna Darcy is asking, what is your dream project that you would like to work on? Something like if you had your druthers, what would it be? And don't say again Donald Trump stuff because we already talked about that.
Yeah, but that's not my dream. I don't want to work on that. I want him out of my life. Well, I have to say, one of my dream projects I was about to start working on is I've been acting on a TV show called Succession.
Right.
And that was like a dream. And this year I was going to be on the whole season. So that was kind of a dream. I got to do 5 episodes last season and it was the most fun I've had acting in like years. It was just a blessing. So when we were supposed to start shooting April 20th around the world, and obviously who knows when that's going to go. I also
can I interrupt? What are you hearing anything from them? Is there anything that you can share with us in terms of what their thoughts are when they can resume production?
No, nobody really knows. I mean, they're saying they're going to start soft prep in August.
Okay.
And then it all depends on if there's resurgence of the virus, and but they're definitely, you know, boarding and prepping, and they may move the whole thing out of New York because of A, weather, if it's winter that we have to work, and B, because the center, you know, it's the worst outbreak right now. So that's what they're saying. We do Zoom calls with the producers and the actors. But yeah, I don't know. That was definitely like a dream come true that now hasn't, we don't know when it's gonna happen.
So what is it about it that was such a dream come true for you? Can you
Yeah,
analyze that a little bit?
it was the first time in a while that I worked with it was just such an ensemble, and Brian Cox, who's kind of the patriarch, is just he's like one of my favorite actors ever lived, but B, he kind of galvanizes everybody, and everybody is so loves the job. It's rare. I know this sounds kind of whiny about actors, but we like to bitch and moan, and you know, this was one of the first times I show up on a set and everybody is so happy to be there, and everybody is prepared, and everybody knows their lines, and everybody plays with each other. And I think part of it is they're mostly all from the stage, and there are no real big stars except for Brian, but he's a theater actor. And I don't know, it was just a wonderful experience. And actually, one of the main director lives in Woodstock part-time. Mark Mylod. His name is Mark Mylod, and he's an amazing director, and he directs a lot of them. He's British.
You have to introduce me to him.
Yeah, he's the best. So I was just like, I just loved everybody, and everybody was happy to be there, and we just all felt like we loved the writing and we loved the direction, and it was a bit of a love fest, which is not that. I mean, yeah. Definitely it happens. I just hadn't experienced it, and I hadn't been acting that much full time. Yeah. So, but my other dream job would be to, I just directed a film, which we could talk about, but I want to direct another film. And I'd like to do it in Europe.
Oh. Just Europe or a particular place in Europe?
To direct a film, and again, I don't know with the world changing, but I would like to direct. I would like to direct a film with my friends in it that is very international, and that is maybe just something that's very uplifting and joyous and makes people happy and smile, but has a bit of an edge and is funny, I guess.
You want to bring the global sense to the global.
Yeah, a little bit of like we all are living on this planet together kind of thing. Yeah. And I just have great friends who are actors around the world, and maybe just to put them all in something would be great.
Anything in writing or not yet?
No.
Okay, so it's in your hand.
Any ideas? Yeah.
Can I just sorry, can we stay with the acting just a little bit further? I have Leslie Smythe who's asking, how do you go about choosing your acting projects? If there's any particular something that you can.
Well, lately it was not about choosing. It was like, do I have that time off? Because I've been so deep into documentary mostly, its availability, and it's more about like working with people that I want to work with. So I've been lucky enough to do tiny roles in Wes Anderson films, but if Wes asked me to do one line in a movie, yeah, I'll do it, you know? So the director is key. Location also. I did a really lousy movie about 10 years ago, but I mean, we didn't think it was going to be it didn't come out like I thought it would, but it was in Rio de Janeiro. So I got to live in Rio for 10 weeks. And I had the best time. So location, I'd say I've done a couple of really bad movies, but they were in Paris or Rio. And so location can be interesting. Now that I have kids, that's changed. But director is key, script is key, role is key. And, you know, so I've been lucky that I haven't had to do so many things for money. there was one low point in my life where I really needed money, and I did a couple of really bad movies for the money. But knock wood, I don't have to do that right now. So Michael Caine said he has 3 ways of choosing movies: the art, the location, and the money.
Okay.
He would alternate. Now he could. For me, it's less offers, but I'd say, yeah, right now it's art, and television has become so much more. It's become amazing. I mean, there are great roles on TV now. And when I was an actor, when I started out, like, you never did TV, you turned it down, and then you did it grudgingly. Now TV is amazing.
Yeah.
So it's great.
Yeah, everybody wants to work now at TV and series.
Yeah.
Susanna Darcy says that you should host The Amazing Race because you want to be traveling. So it's a.
I would love to. I developed I did a pilot on NBC. It was before its time, but it was a travel show around the world. I was this guy named Jack, Travels with Jack, and I was the travel show host. But it was a show about behind the scenes, the host, the cameraman, and the sound girl, and the trouble that we got into while we were making the travel show. Right. That was my dream project then. And imagine like an Anthony Bourdain without the food, but backstage, the back scene. So that I tried to do in like 12 years ago. Right. Didn't go.
I have just a little hi from you from Carl Schiffelman. He was your storyboard artist. So he's just saying hello.
Oh, hi, Carl. All right. Yeah, I just worked with him.
I really want to talk about your recent projects. And We Go Green, which was a documentary that you can tell us a little bit about. Yeah. That was recently released, and the new and what I find also very interesting, the new film that you just finished the post on. I would love for you to tell us a little bit about that and what is happening with it now that we are stuck in this limbo of pandemic. So if you can talk about the doc and the narrative, that would be.
So the doc, I took this one mostly because of the travel and the environmental aspects. And so Leonardo DiCaprio and I had made Before the Flood, and then he asked me to meet him in Brooklyn, like this is now 3 years ago, at a racetrack. And I said, there are no racetracks in Brooklyn. He's like, no, there's an electric race car event. Come meet me. And I go meet him, and he gets me into the pit, and I meet the drivers and he goes, dude, we should make a documentary about this electric car race series. And I'm like, what? And he's like, spend the day with these guys. And I did. And he's like, he was right. And I just thought, oh, wow. I didn't care about race car drivers. I didn't care about racing. I always thought it was like a kind of weird sport. And then this is electric racing. So there's no noise. It's guys who didn't really make it in Formula One or were retiring from Formula One. The best drivers in the world, but like not the top 5, but like after that. And I loved it. It was like, okay, we can make an environmental movie, but about sport and not hit the hammer over the head with the environment. And it was a great experience. Went around, they race around the world, different cities. They build tracks in the middle of Paris, the middle of Rome, the middle of Hong Kong, on the waterfront, in Brooklyn and Red Hook. And it's a race series. And I filmed the 4th season, and it was really cool experience. And the movie's called And We Go Green, and it premieres on Hulu June 4th. Leo produced it. He's in it. He was in a really other great scene, but he made me cut it because it was whatever. But I'm really excited about it. We played at Cannes. We played in Toronto. We were going to play in Woodstock.
It was supposed to have been in South by Southwest also, I think.
We were in South by this. Yeah, we were in South by. I'm really proud of the film. I made it with this friend of mine, Malcolm Venville, who's a big commercial director. So the film looks beautiful.
Yeah.
shot anamorphic lenses. I'd never got to do that before with amazing cinematographers. And yeah, so that premiered. And then I'd always been trying, for 3 years, I've been trying to direct this feature film called Palmer, which was a script I read based kind of on 2 different true stories about a guy coming out of jail, an ex-high school football quarterback star who got injured in college and became addicted to painkillers and committed a terrible crime. And he's coming out of prison 12 years later, and he goes back home to Red State, the South America, outside of Louisiana. And I started pre-production a year, like 2 years ago now, almost. And we were going to shoot in Georgia with Charlie Hunnam, the actor who's on Sons of Anarchy. And I started prepping the movie, and get down there, and they go, well, you guys don't have any money. And they didn't have it. The producers didn't have any money. So I was like, oh my God, you're kidding me. It was like, I turned down work. I was all set to go. And anyway, I had to start again. I reunited with my ex-partner at Green Street, John Pinotti. I sent him the script. He really liked the script. I sent it to Charlie Wessler, who had just won the Oscar for Green Book, to produce it. And we put together another team, and through Leonardo DiCaprio's manager, we got the script to Justin Timberlake, who was looking to do something dramatic, who's from the South. He read the script, and, you know, we kind of danced around for a while, and he finally committed to it. And we filmed in these little towns outside of 60 miles away from New Orleans in November, December. And we started cutting, and I got about 4 weeks from finishing when COVID happened in quarantine. We finished on the computer cutting, did some temp music, temp sound, but we decided, let's try to sell it. Let's start to show it to distributors. So we're going to start showing it to distributors next week, because.
How are you showing it?
You know, online, a link.
Online, yeah.
Yeah, because we don't know when the film festivals are going to happen, and I want to partner with it. You know, Pinotti and I want to find a partner, to a distributor now, and, you know, people are going to need content, and all we need really is a sound mix and music. We're almost done with the music, but, you know, and it was a hard experience. It was really hard. We shot it in 5 weeks. It was like, really difficult. It starred Justin and a 7-year-old boy. And I found this incredible kid, but it was not easy. So I cast June Squibb, who's a 90-year-old actress. So I had a 7-year-old and a 90-year-old, and Justin, and, you know, it was a trip, and we had 5 weeks to shoot it. And fortunately, I had this amazing DP, Tobias Schleisler, who shot Friday Night Lights. He shot Dreamgirls, Beauty and the Beast. He worked on my race car movie. So it was a beautiful experience, but really tough. Happy Massey designed it. It was like, I think I've been to Woodstock Film Festival with him. He's a production designer. So it was an amazingly difficult but beautiful experience. And I love the movie. Knock wood, it came out really well. And I can't wait to show it at the film festival when it's ready.
I hope that we'll be able to show it.
If I can get in, if it gets in.
Well, you know, it's very difficult. You have to know somebody.
I know.
So I have a question from Nancy Cohen, and she's asking this twice, so I'm going to get to that. And she's asking, how do you feel about Michael Moore's new film, and what work can we people do? How can she and people like her join animal efforts? If you can talk a little bit about that.
Well, I'll tell you, the one person that I really look to for animal rights is Luis Ahoyos, who directed The Cove and Racing Extinction. And he just directed a really cool movie about vegan athletes on Netflix. Game Changers, really good film. So he has a organization called the Oceanic Preservation Society, or OPS. I would write Louis, say, I spoke to Fisher, and who are you really supporting right now? How can I support you? They're doing great conservation work with the oceans, marine mammals. Oceana for marine mammals, an amazing organization, doing amazing work. When it comes to like saving tigers and lions, then you have to really dig and do your homework. That's a longer conversation, because like World Wildlife Fund, WWF, they do great work in certain countries and they do not such great work in other countries, because they have different people running different country and different divisions. But for tiger conservation in India, you should definitely, you guys can go online and watch Tiger Land, which is a movie that I was talking about earlier on.
Where can they watch it? Somebody actually asked that.
That's on iTunes.
Okay.
Those people need support. If you want to save tigers in India and save tigers in Siberia, you can watch that film, and at the end, they will give you a place you can go there. I will also send it to Woodstock Film Festival, and that will be posted after we, not today, but tomorrow.
Okay.
So yeah, it's tricky because, you don't want to just give a check to WWF because you don't know where it's going. But if you go to specific places, then Rainforest Action Network, that's a great organization if you want to save orangutans in Indonesia. So it's like everything is very granular. You want to really do a little homework and see where your money's going.
Fisher, before we finish, I mean, you're very prolific in terms of your work, and you do different things. I mean, your feature narratives seem to be not very connected to your activism work. But it seems that you're very passionate about your activism, and you've done a lot in that arena. I wonder if you went back in time, if you remember, what was it that turned you on to environmental and political, environmental specifically, because I see that you're very passionate about that, and you've done a lot of work already in that space. What turned you on? Was there a pivotal moment, a person, an event? Is there anything that you could sort of select a moment of change for you?
I mean, I think my mother was arrested for protesting at the Chicago Convention in '68. And I was 3.5 or 4 years old, but I, for some reason, remember it. And then I remember my mother was very active in civil rights and in indigenous people's rights when I was young. So that was definitely the beginning. I remember that when Ronald Reagan was elected president, I felt so different from him. And I felt like he was gonna really, I don't know, he represented, even though he was an actor and I was an actor, he represented everything I didn't like. And I started getting a bit of a fire in my 15-year-old body then as to like what I can do. But then, I don't know, I kind of got a little lost and on the path of an actor. And then I started scuba diving. And
Okay.
I went to these incredible places with really smart people. And I would see bleached corals, and I would be in these beautiful places. There'd be no fish. And I learned all about climate change while I was scuba diving, and I learned about oceans, destructions of the oceans. And I didn't even know what it meant to put too much carbon in the air. So I think scuba diving and seeing it firsthand, and then the combination of when Bush beat Gore and then brought us into Iraq. I mean, just a lot of anger. I remember protesting. I remember getting into a pretty, I went to a fundraiser when Hillary Clinton was running for Senate for her second term and getting into a heated debate with her about the war. And it's just crazy how it's just like escalated. And then Obama gets elected and I become very complacent. And then here we go. So yeah. I think it's a combination of things. I'm really interested in race right now, and at my old age, and I realize how little I know about race, and you know, so I'm kind of toying with doing a series on dealing with racial issues with a bunch, with mostly African Americans, working with my team, and so that's kind of another place I'd like to look at. My feature film actually deals with bullying, and the 7-year-old boy is very gender fluid in the film, so it definitely has an activism, not hitting you over the head, but it deals with some subject that I feel very close to as well. But yeah, I just feel like as artists, we have a responsibility sort of to use what we have to try to express what's wrong in this world, and that's, yeah. So, I mean, it's just crazy what we're going through right now. I never would have imagined that we'd be here, but we are. So we all have to kind of fight now, whether you're an artist or whatever we do, we have to just fight. So.
Well, it's a great way to wrap this up. And thank you so much. Thank you for walking the talk and really doing all the different activism that you're doing. And hopefully you'll make a difference for all of us. Because
well, I still have a long way to go, but I'll do my best, but I can do better.
So Fisher, stay in touch. Good luck with everything. Good luck with Palmer. Thanks. And guys, if you want to see any of the films that Fisher spoke about, either contact the Woodstock Film Festival, or you can really Google them, and so many of them are available on iTunes or YouTube, so you can just do that. That's often what I do. Thank you, Fisher, and we'll talk again soon. Okay. Have a good rest of the evening. Bye. Good night, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.